Hello, I'm Rebecca Turner with the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Welcome to the 10th presentation of our series on effective strategies for students with disabilities for new special education teachers. In this presentation, we will discuss ways to plan for replacement behaviors that match the function of student behaviors. A replacement behavior is a positive, appropriate behavior that we can teach a student to use to replace the target behavior. Replacement behaviors must serve the same function as the behavior that we are trying to reduce. The IRIS Center explains that there are three considerations when planning for replacement behaviors. Replacement behaviors should be functionally equivalent and meet the same need as the target behavior. They should also be socially valued across a variety of settings and people. Behaviors that are socially valued are more likely to be naturally reinforced by others, which promotes long-term maintenance. When considering if a replacement behavior is socially valuable, consider the student's cultural background and whether it also reflects values within their cultural context. Finally, replacement behaviors should be achievable, meaning that staff creating the behavior plan should be knowledgeable about the student's skills and whether a student is able to perform the required behavior. Why is it important to plan for behavior replacements when establishing behavior interventions? First, the Individuals with Disabilities Act, or IDEA, as well as the Kentucky Administrative Regulations, the KARs, require that an ART consider and provide supports that help students succeed. That includes addressing behavior in a positive and proactive way. Second, from a behavioral science perspective, we know that you can't just eliminate a behavior. You have to replace it with something that works better for the student. Finally, teaching replacement behaviors helps students build independence, confidence, and stronger relationships. It's not just about managing behavior. It's about giving students new skills that they can generalize across environments. Choosing the right replacement behavior starts with understanding why the behavior is happening. That's where a functional behavior assessment, or an FBA, comes in. An FBA helps us identify the function or whether the student may be trying to escape, gain attention, seek sensory input, or access something they want. Once we know the function, we choose a behavior that meets the same need, is appropriate for the student's age and abilities, and is both easier and more effective than the target behavior. Replacement behaviors are considered more effective than the target behavior when they result in a greater amount of reinforcement that's more immediate, higher quality, and easier to gain. Just like academic skills, replacement behaviors need to be explicitly taught. Explicit instruction for replacement behaviors includes modeling the replacement behavior by showing the student what it looks like, prompting the behavior, or guiding them through it and reinforcing the behavior by celebrating their successes. Practice is key. Embed opportunities throughout the day into natural routines and settings, and make sure that all staff are consistent in their responses. New behavior must be reinforced more effectively than the old one. So purposely plan for immediate and meaningful feedback across staff, settings, and situations. As you're planning how to teach replacement behaviors, also consider if the student isn't demonstrating the skill or the behavior due to a skill deficit or a performance deficit. The IRIS Center tells us that skill deficits are those that the student doesn't yet know how to do. They will need direct instruction, modeling, and lots of practice. A performance deficit means that the student knows how to do the behavior, but isn't doing it consistently. This may mean that your interventions will focus more on motivation, environment, and reinforcement. Let's break that down with an example. If a student never asks for help, even when they're clearly struggling, it may be a skill deficit. They might not know how to ask appropriately or when it's okay to do so. But if the student can ask for help and has done it before, but engages in refusal behaviors instead, that may be a performance deficit. In that case, we need to look at what's reinforcing the behavior and make sure the replacement behavior is more effective and rewarding. To put it simply, for skill deficits, we teach and practice. For performance deficits, we motivate, reinforce, and provide consistency. Let's look at an example of choosing a replacement behavior based on the function. To think of this as a process, we identify the target behavior, determine the function, and select a replacement behavior. In this example, our target behavior is elopement. If our function-based assessment shows that this behavior meets a need for attention, a possible replacement behavior may include teaching the student to raise their hand to request attention or use functional communication training to teach them to request attention from a preferred partner. A replacement behavior due to elopement or elopement due to the need to escape may include teaching a student to request a break or request help. A sensory need for elopement may benefit from the replacement of teaching a student to request movement breaks throughout the day or request the use of approved sensory supports. And elopement that occurs from a need to access something tangible may be met through teaching a student how to request their need and how to access that item throughout the day. Replacement behaviors are essential for positive behavior support. They must serve the same function as the problem behavior. Choose replacement behaviors that are appropriate, effective, and teachable. And most importantly, teach and reinforce them consistently. For additional information, please see the resources available here. For any questions, please contact me, Rebecca Turner. I can be reached at 502-564-4970, extension 4164, or by email at rebecca.turner@education.ky.gov. Thank you for watching this presentation on replacement behaviors.